Across America, a quiet panic is spreading at pharmacy counters. A pharmacist shakes their head. "I'm sorry, we're out of stock." This isn't about a trendy product, it's about life-sustaining medicine. President Trump's aggressive tariffs have triggered a crisis, cutting off vital drug supplies from India and China. Pharmacists now report critical shortages of common generics, from blood pressure meds to antibiotics. The promise of America First rings hollow for families rationing pills or facing triple prices overnight. Hospitals and pharmacies scramble for alternatives, exposing the fragility of our reliance on cheap imported generics. The trade war meant to show strength has left millions vulnerable, and the true impact is only beginning to unfold. What's a tariff, you might wonder, especially in the context of our everyday lives and health? And why is it causing such a disruption in our medicine supply, leaving shelves bare and pharmacists worried? Essentially, a tariff is a tax on imports. It's designed to make foreign drugs more expensive, with the hope of encouraging companies to manufacture more within the US borders. The idea is straightforward: impose a 25% tax on Chinese-made ibuprofen, and perhaps American factories will rise to the occasion, filling the gap. However, the reality is more complicated. Constructing these factories isn't an overnight task, it takes years of planning, investment, and development. Meanwhile, the immediate effect is felt by consumers who face higher prices and limited availability. Some tariffs have skyrocketed to as much as 250%, a heavy-handed approach that fails to consider the intricate web of global drug supply chains. Unlike commodities like steel or cars, where consumers might delay purchases, medicine is a daily necessity. You can't simply wait for prices to drop when it comes to your heart medication or insulin. For millions of Americans, these medications are not just products. They are lifelines, essential for maintaining health and well-being. By using tariffs as a tool in trade disputes, the administration has inadvertently turned what was a trade issue into a pressing public health crisis. The outcome is a deeply personal crisis for countless individuals who depend on prescriptions to manage chronic conditions, leaving families stressed and anxious about their health and finances. Here's the reality. 90% of US prescriptions are for generics, which means that the vast majority of medications that Americans rely on daily are not brand-name drugs. These generics are crucial for treating everything from common colds to chronic conditions, making them an indispensable part of healthcare in the United States. And most of these generic drugs are manufactured in India and China. These two countries have become the backbone of the global pharmaceutical supply chain, producing a staggering volume of medications that are shipped worldwide. India is often referred to as the world's pharmacy. It produces a significant portion of the world's generic drugs, thanks to its advanced manufacturing capabilities and cost-effective production processes. Meanwhile, China plays a critical role by supplying the raw ingredients needed to make these drugs. Its vast chemical manufacturing industry provides the essential building blocks for pharmaceuticals. This global system has kept US drug prices relatively low, allowing millions of Americans to afford their medications. However, it has also made the US heavily dependent on foreign factories for its drug supply. When tariffs were imposed, India and China retaliated by cutting shipments and redirecting supplies to other countries. This move was a strategic response to the trade tensions, highlighting the leverage these nations hold. Suddenly, the US found itself locked out of the global medicine cabinet, facing shortages that left pharmacy shelves empty and pharmacists scrambling to meet patient needs. India and China made it clear, through both actions and words, that the US needs them more than they need the US. This power dynamic has shifted the balance in global trade relations. The US is now facing the consequences of a trade war it initiated, with its own citizens caught in the crossfire. Patients are worried about access to essential medications, and healthcare providers are concerned about the long-term implications. The global pharmacy is, for now, partially closed to its biggest customer, the United States. This situation underscores the fragility of relying too heavily on international supply chains for critical goods. The vulnerability of our drug supply has never been more obvious. It serves as a wake-up call for policymakers to rethink strategies and ensure a more resilient and self-sufficient pharmaceutical supply chain in the future. The crisis hit pharmacies first, ordering systems flashing out of stock for vital generics. Prices for remaining supplies soared overnight. Families desperate for seizure meds or blood pressure pills are told, there's nothing left. Pharmacists scramble for alternatives, but options are limited and often unaffordable. Patients face impossible choices, pay for medicine or pay for rent. Many are forced onto expensive brand-name drugs, piling on financial stress. Pharmacists spend hours navigating a broken supply chain while patients drive for miles in search of refills. The shelves are empty, and the most vulnerable are paying the price. Meet Sarah, a retired teacher in Ohio who managed her diabetes with $4 metformin, until it vanished from shelves. Her pharmacist can only offer a $200 brand-name alternative, far beyond her fixed income. Sarah now rations her remaining pills, risking her health. She's not alone. A father can't find ADHD meds for his son. A veteran's heart drugs are suddenly scarce. These aren't abstract problems. They're daily emergencies for real people. The emotional toll is crushing. Fear, anger, and exhaustion as patients hunt for medicine. Rationing, skipping doses, and feeling abandoned. This is the human cost of a trade war. Americans are fighting for their health in a crisis they never saw coming. The alarm isn't just American. Experts, industry leaders, and foreign governments are all warning. These tariffs are reckless. Medical associations say disrupting the drug supply will cause shortages, higher prices, and worse health outcomes. Even pharmaceutical companies warn it could take a decade and billions to build enough US factories. India and China call the tariffs punitive, saying they're forced to protect their own interests. European allies warn this could set a dangerous precedent. Weaponizing medicine for politics. The global consensus, this is a self-inflicted wound using a blunt tool for a delicate problem. The harm to patients is immediate and severe. The world is watching and urging the US to change course. The pharmaceutical industry is fighting back. Lawyers and lobbyists are flooding Washington. Lawsuits argue the president overstepped, imposing tariffs on essential medicines without Congress. The industry hopes to block the tariffs in court and buy time to prevent total supply collapse. Meanwhile, lobbyists urge Congress to exempt drugs from tariffs, framing it as a public health emergency. The pressure is bipartisan. Your voters can't get their medicine, and prices are soaring. But legal and political battles move slowly while patients face shortages now. The industry is scrambling, but for many Americans, relief may not come soon enough. If tariffs are the wrong medicine, what's the right one? Experts say, de-escalate the trade war and negotiate new agreements focused on stable drug supplies. Offer incentives, tax credits, grants, faster approvals, to encourage US manufacturing but don't destroy the current supply chain overnight. Build a parallel system, not a replacement. Work with allies to diversify the global supply so no single country holds all the cards. The goal: affordable access now, and a secure domestic supply for the future. This requires diplomacy, investment, and international cooperation, not isolation. The lesson: you can't ensure public health by going it alone. If nothing changes, drug shortages will only get worse. What we're seeing now, empty shelves and anxious pharmacists, could soon become the new normal across the country. Pharmacies that once bustled with activity may find themselves struggling to keep even the most basic medications in stock, leaving patients and healthcare workers frustrated and worried. The list of scarce drugs is growing. It's not just antibiotics or painkillers. Life-saving cancer treatments, heart medications, and even common prescriptions could become harder to find and much more expensive. As supplies dwindle, prices will rise, putting even more pressure on families already struggling with healthcare costs. Doctors will face tough choices, forced to prescribe less effective or pricier alternatives when the best options aren't available. This means patients may not get the treatments they need, leading to longer recoveries, more complications, and higher medical bills. The trust between patients and their healthcare providers could be tested like never before. A prolonged trade war could do lasting damage to global cooperation. If the US becomes isolated from key suppliers, it may lose access to critical ingredients and finished medicines, making shortages even worse. The ripple effects could be felt worldwide, disrupting supply chains and straining international relationships. Rebuilding domestic manufacturing is a massive undertaking. It would take years, possibly a decade or more, and cost billions of dollars to create a reliable, self-sufficient supply chain. In the meantime, Americans would remain vulnerable to shortages, and the transition could be rocky with unexpected setbacks and delays. The administration now faces a critical decision. They can double down on tariffs and risk a healthcare catastrophe, or they can pivot to smarter, more collaborative solutions that bring together industry, government, and international partners. The path they choose will shape the future of American healthcare for years to come. For now, Americans should prepare for continued uncertainty. It's important to talk to doctors and pharmacists about possible alternatives, stay informed about shortages, and plan ahead whenever possible. Communities may need to support each other, sharing information and resources to get through tough times. This crisis is a stark reminder that policy decisions have real personal consequences. Behind every empty shelf is a family, a patient, a life put on hold. The stakes are high, and the impact is deeply personal for millions of Americans. The question now is urgent. Will our leaders act with the foresight and courage needed to prevent irreversible damage, or will they wait until it's too late? The future of our healthcare system and the well-being of countless Americans hangs in the balance.